What if everything you thought you knew about DNA was incomplete? What if the very foundation of genetics that we've been taught in school is missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? Today, we're going to explore a scientific revolution that's quietly rewriting the rules of heredity, and by the end of this video, you'll never look at your genes the same way again. For decades, we've been told that DNA is our biological destiny. Your genes determine your height, your eye color, the sound of your voice, and among other things, susceptibility to certain diseases. But recent discoveries are revealing that this view is dramatically oversimplified. Your DNA isn't just a static blueprint, it's more like a dynamic library where certain books can be opened or closed based on your experiences, your environment, and even your lifestyle choices. To grasp how revolutionary this is, we need to understand what epigenetics actually means. The word itself provides a clue. Epi means above or on top of, so epigenetics literally means above genetics. Think of your DNA as a piano with thousands of keys. Classical genetics has focused on which keys exist, but epigenetics studies which keys are being played, how loudly and when. The melody of your life isn't just determined by the piano keys you have, but by how they're being played. These epigenetic modifications work through several mechanisms, but the most well-studied involves chemical tags called methyl groups that attach to DNA. When these methyl groups bind to certain regions of a gene, they can silence that gene completely, like putting a mute button on a specific piano key. Conversely, other modifications can amplify gene expression, making certain genetic programs more active. One experiment changed everything we thought we knew about heredity. In the Netherlands, researchers studied the children and grandchildren of people who lived through the Dutch hunger winter of 1944. During this period, the Nazi blockade caused severe famine, and pregnant women were surviving on as little as 400 calories per day. But the plot thickens. The children born during this famine showed specific changes in their gene expression that persisted throughout their lives, affecting their metabolism and disease susceptibility. So what ended up happening was that these changes were passed down to their children and grandchildren who had never experienced famine in their lifetimes. This has profound implications for understanding human health and disease patterns. Researchers are now investigating whether historical traumas, famines, or environmental exposures might have left epigenetic signatures that influence disease susceptibility in contemporary populations. Some studies suggest that the descendants of Holocaust survivors show specific epigenetic patterns that might affect their stress responses and mental health risks. What's truly mind-bending is how responsive these modifications are to environmental factors. Your diet, your stress levels, your sleep patterns, even your social relationships can influence which genes are turned on or off. This means that identical twins, despite having the same genetic code, can have dramatically different gene expression patterns based on their life experiences. This discovery shattered a fundamental assumption in genetics. Textbooks told us acquired traits die with the individual, but epigenetics says otherwise. This transgenerational inheritance of epigenetic modifications is perhaps the most controversial aspect of the field. For generations, we've been taught that inheritance works through DNA mutations that accumulate slowly over evolutionary time. But epigenetics suggests that environmental influences can be passed down much more rapidly, potentially allowing organisms to adapt to changing conditions within just a few generations. Your grandmother's experiences during her pregnancy might be influencing your health today in ways we're only beginning to understand. Studies suggest that stress during pregnancy and different experiences during critical developmental periods can influence the brain development of offspring and can have lasting effects on gene expression, potentially affecting their emotional regulation and stress responses. It can influence gene expression patterns that persist throughout that child's lifetime and potentially into the next generation. The research is beginning to provide biological explanations for phenomena psychologists have been observing for decades. Depression, anxiety, and other psychiatric conditions show patterns of altered gene expression that might be influenced by environmental factors. This research could lead to new therapeutic approaches that target the epigenetic mechanisms underlying mental health disorders. This new understanding has profound implications for how we think about human potential and limitation. If gene expression can be influenced by environmental factors, then the old debates about nature versus nurture become much more complex. It's not just about whether traits are determined by genes or environment, but about how genes and environment interact in an ongoing dance that shapes who we are. Consider the implications of this for our understanding of disease. We've long known that some people are genetically predisposed to conditions like heart disease or certain cancers. But epigenetics reveals that having a genetic predisposition doesn't guarantee you'll develop the disease. Environmental factors can influence whether those problematic genes are expressed or remain silent. This doesn't mean you can completely overcome genetic risk through lifestyle alone, but it does mean you have more control over your genetic destiny than previously imagined. Epigenetics is also revolutionizing our approach to aging. We used to think of aging as an inevitable genetic program, but epigenetic research suggests that the aging process involves progressive changes in gene expression patterns. Some researchers are investigating whether it might be possible to reverse certain aspects of aging by resetting epigenetic modifications to more youthful patterns. There they go, like a bunch of pirates after the fountain of youth. This brings us to one of the most exciting frontiers in medicine, epigenetic therapy.
Yeah, okay.
Traditional gene therapy tries to rewrite your DNA. Epigenetic therapy, it just changes which parts get read.
Oh.
Drugs like Zolynsa and Vidasa are already being used in cancer treatment, not by replacing genes, but by flipping the genetic switches that control them. Researchers are investigating epigenetic approaches for treating everything from neurological disorders to metabolic diseases. The beauty of epigenetic therapy is its potential reversibility. While genetic mutations are typically permanent, epigenetic modifications can potentially be reversed or modified. This opens up therapeutic possibilities that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. But epigenetics also raises important questions about personal responsibility and social policy. If our lifestyle choices can influence not just our own health, but potentially the health of our children and grandchildren, how does this change our understanding of individual versus collective responsibility? Should societies implement policies to protect not just current generations, but future ones from harmful environmental exposures? The field is also grappling with the challenge of separating correlation from causation. Just because we observe epigenetic changes associated with certain environmental factors doesn't necessarily mean those factors cause the changes. The human body is incredibly complex, and teasing apart the various influences on gene expression requires sophisticated research methods and careful interpretation of results. The story of epigenetics is still being written. Your DNA isn't your destiny, it's your potential. And every experience helps decide what parts of that potential become real. You're not just the code, you're the composer. This revolution in our understanding of heredity is just beginning, and its implications will continue to unfold for generations to come. The next time someone tells you that something is genetic, remember that the full story is far more complex and far more hopeful than that simple statement suggests.